I heard you.
Okay.
Alvaro?
Yes.
Yes, we're going to be doing some serious gymnastics and sprinting this GIS day here. 3 of the persons who are a part of this webinar, there are critical meetings that I'm told are being held right now that they're in, and they can't join right now based on where they're at in those meetings. Some shifting happening in terms of the schedule, and so yeah, so we're gonna see how best to we work accordingly. But we're gonna start. Okay.
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 54 people.
It's a record. Okay. And we're all in. Yeah. Yes, all in, Alvaro. Ready to go?
We have some people missing. Alicia Edwards, Nadine Brown, Ronald Jackson.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, Alvaro. We just got a message that they're in key meetings that they're dealing with respect to the disaster. And so we're going to have to start. And when they can join, they'll come over based on those other meetings that they have to be dealing with. So we have to be doing some reshifting, all right, as best as possible. We're navigating the program given the fact that they are in other meetings at this time. Okay. So we're gonna start. We're gonna record now, Alvaro. Ready to record?
Sí, estamos grabando, Arturo, ¿verdad?
Sí, estamos grabando.
We are
you
recording,
seeing
yes.
the video?
Before I start recording, I have just gotten to my desk. So could you have my second login as a panelist so I can get on my phone?
You heard that request, Alvaro?
Mark, what do you specifically want?
I am listed as an attendee. I just joined from my desktop. I've been on from my phone. So add my
to pass to presenter to the second. Okay.
Yes.
Arturo, podemos pasar a Mark Katian a presentador también en la segunda. Está también en la lista de attendees.
Ok, lo que pasamos.
Okay. All right. So while we're sorting that out, can you confirm if you can see my video, Alvaro?
We see your screen. GIS Day.
Screen, yes, but can you see me? You're seeing my camera?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, I can see you.
All right, wonderful. All right, we're going to officially start. Good morning. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Caribbean Geospatial Development Initiative's Big GIS Day event. That's of our Lunch and Learn webinar. So this is the first time within which we're having a Lunch and Learn webinar, and we're hosting this webinar in celebration of International GIS Day. And so it is my pleasure to officially say to you, happy International GIS Day from the Caribbean Geospatial Development Initiative Steering Committee. from all the Caribbean countries to all the Caribbean countries, all the Americas countries, and all the other countries in the world who are joining us for this webinar. This webinar is quite timely. It's quite timely given all that has happened with respect to the 2025 North Atlantic hurricane season. There's events that we've been having throughout the Caribbean with respect to tropical storms and hurricanes, and the most recent of which, that being Hurricane Melissa, and the level of damage that it has caused within the region, in particular impacting the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Haiti, Jamaica, the Bahamas, as it would have passed through our shores. So we're happy to be here with you today to share lessons that have been learned based on our experience here in Jamaica, and given all the various players that have been involved in the process of monitoring, response, rescue, relief, and our move towards recovery and restoration as a country. We're happy that you've joined us, and in joining us, we're hoping that all that you will learn during this webinar, as we share, as we showcase what we have been doing here, and as we invite further collaboration, as we advance our efforts in use of geospatial information and technologies to aid our efforts in responding to the impacts of this major Category 5 hurricane, which based on records has far surpassed any other records of a hurricane. So it is historic in all accounts. And with that, the level of devastation and the impact that will be the case for some time for Jamaica. And so we remain hopeful. We're very grateful that although we have lost lives, which is very heart-wrenching, we're happy that the death toll figure has not been increasing. We hope it remains very low. We know a lot of persons have been suffering based on what has been happening, have been traumatized. And so our prayers are with them. And if they're online with us and you're here in Jamaica or in any other country that has been impacted by Hurricane Melissa or any other event, our heartfelt prayers are with you for relief and emotional relief and sustenance as we go through and as you recover from all of this. All right. So as we continue, this event has been quite timely because very recently, CARIGEO would have hosted a side event in Chile. And that side event would have started or look at this major earth hurricane and the impact that it did have. So at this point in time, we thought it wise to continue that leg and to host this webinar on International GIS Day, whereby we look forward to being able to demonstrate the real operational role of geospatial information in Jamaica's Hurricane Melissa response. We want to be celebrating the collaborations, and these are collaborations between national agencies here in Jamaica, between our CARIGEO partners regionally and internationally, and our global geospatial community. We also want to educate. Use this as a basis, as a platform to educate the public and policymakers on how geospatial tools are informing response, recovery, and or move towards long-term resilience. So this provides a platform for field responders, analysts, and leaders to share insights. And with this, we're hoping that this webinar will also serve as an inspiration to inspire Caribbean-wide investment in geospatial systems and capability to ensure that our member states or countries are more resilient as they advance with respect to their development efforts, their sustainable development efforts, and the achievement of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. And so we're happy that you've joined us for this session. In going through this session, we're going to be going through some key areas. And these key areas include taking a snapshot and a look at geospatial intelligence in action. And what does this look like? So looking at geospatial situation awareness. Then moving on to looking at eyes in the sky, looking at Jamaica's drone mapping operations, so how that came into being to support response and relief efforts. We'll then advance to looking at or move from response to recovery phase and how this is highly data driven. So data-driven rebuilding and the importance of that. And then we'll follow into having a live discussion, panel discussion that looks at all of this. So why geospatial data matters, lessons that have been learned from Hurricane Melissa with respect to our response efforts. And then we'll take from you questions and answers, questions with respect to queries that you may have, and we will field as many of those as best as possible. So we invite you to post in the chat if you have any questions. We will also, so please post as we're going through the discussions, as we're going through any presentations, please do post accordingly. And based on that, we will take those queries at different points throughout the session and in particular towards the end. And then we close off with respect to our vote of thanks. So that is what our webinar looks like today. So we invite your flexibility. So this hurricane has taught us a lot about flexibility, but also a lot about adaptability. And with that, we invite your flexibility and adaptability because a few key persons who are part of this webinar are currently locked in other meetings based on the continued response and recovery efforts. So we're going to see how best to work our agenda accordingly to accommodate them when they're able to join based on the other commitments of which they're doing based on our continued response and recovery efforts. So thank you for your flexibility and your adaptability and your kind understanding with respect to that. All right, wonderful. So Seeing the Storm Geospatial Situation Awareness is a session of which we would be taking our Principal Director for the National Spatial Data Management Branch, Mrs. Alicia Edwards. However, she is locked in a meeting at the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. When she is able to join, we're going to take her at that point and then continue. All right? So we're going to be pivoting as we go through this session. So I'm going to move on accordingly. You can advise me if is Nadine with us as yet? I am not seeing her in the chat. No, I'm not seeing her. All right, so guess what? Guess what, Valerie? We're going to move on to you. So you're going to be our first presenter. So happy that you have joined us. So Dr. Valerie Grant is going to be taking us through the segment where we're looking at eyes in the sky. All right, we're going to be going to the section on eyes in the sky, and looking at eyes in the sky, we're going to be looking at Jamaica's drone mapping operations. So Jamaica has a National Emergency Response GIS team, and shout out, big ups to all the members of the NERGIST team who have joined us for this session. They have been pivotal with respect to providing support, with respect to doing damage assessments and provision of geospatial support that has been needed to serve Jamaica's National Emergency Operations Center. Core to that is the development of a Jamaica drone mapping team led by the Jamaica Flying Labs. And so at this time, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Grant, who is the founder and CEO of the Jamaica Flying Labs team, who will be sharing with us what that experience has been like with respect to coordinating those efforts and what they have found given the level of mapping that they have been doing over the past 2 weeks and some with respect to the impact of this major hurricane on Jamaica. So handing over to you, Dr. Valerie Grant, and I will stop sharing accordingly.
Okay, thank you so much, Simone. So as soon as I can get to share, let me just see what's happening here.
Okay, give me a sec, trying to stop sharing. Okay, I think I'm successful now.
Okay, let me see.
Are you still seeing? Stop sharing?
Yeah, I'm seeing you stop sharing. I'm trying to see my presentation, which I'm for some reason not seeing being able to come up. So we're battling tech issues and everything else today. Okay, why isn't it allowing me to share still? Oh, wow, that's not good. Let's try this again. I'm just gonna go ahead and, so as Simone said, we were asked to lead the drone mapping exercise. And in so doing, we have learned quite a bit. And
sorry, Val, you want to send me, thanks, Javon, for that recommendation. You want to send me the presentation, if anything, I can share on your behalf while you're speaking?
I think I'm now seeing it. Are you seeing my screen?
Okay. Yes, there we go. Yippee. There we go.
Thank you. So, as Simone said, Jamaica Flying Labs, which is a nonprofit that we founded a few years ago, and the founder, we have another coordinator, so I'm not really involved in the day-to-day operations, but given all of what has been taking place, it was important to step in, and so we've basically formed a bit of a collaboration, and the collaboration, as you're seeing on the screen, is quite an extensive one. It starts with Government of Jamaica, who are the ones that define the priority, the incident areas for where we need to be mapping. And so that is really ODPM and NERGIST. They review, also Government of Jamaica involves the Civil Aviation Authority, and Civil Aviation Authority are the ones that review drone and approve the permits to support the mapping process. What the Civil Aviation Authority did was to make Jamaica Flying Labs an umbrella organization that would be able to support the activities, and so that we are very coordinated. So all international players, local players who are doing geospatial mapping would need to coordinate with us, and we're coordinating all of that activity, and you'll see how that works in a bit. So we lead that drone coordination activity based on the priority areas. We're supported by organizations such as the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap, UWI, many local drone operators, as well as a lot of global industry partners have really stepped up and come on board. We Robotics and the Flying Labs Network is the one who is coordinating the drone data processing on our behalf, processing the imagery and sharing the data products, and Esri is assisting in sharing and supporting the analysis in the background, also the use of their image server. And so, as you will recognize, this is really a collaborative workflow. And just to go through the collaborative workflow, so many of the persons, I'll just say, who were supposed to have originally be coming to the conference in Jamaica, which was scheduled for December 2nd through the 4th, have really just turned their efforts into assisting in any way possible. So partners, sponsors, everyone. I am wearing Frugo, and it doesn't say Jamaica Flying Lab. Frugo is the organization that I'm currently employed to. And so that was one of the organizations that was also going to be at the conference. And so I'm also given the time and flexibility to do this on behalf of our country at this point in time. This, what you're seeing on the screen, is where we register pilots. So you'll notice it has a lead pilot, the status of flights, all of that information. So pilots are registered. Pilots are then assigned different grids. If you can see here, they're assigned different grids. The name of the pilot is here. They're assigned the grids. And then after they are assigned the grids, the next up, they will go, we have coordination meetings with them from time to time. And just to make sure everybody's on the same page, hear any concerns, also talk about the mental anguish that some of them may be going through, and to see if there is any way in which we can support accordingly, because what they're seeing on the ground is sometimes very hard to see. I've witnessed that firsthand. Somebody telling you and you being physically there is two different things. So once we have those coordination meetings, we use the different tools, we make sure people are aware that people are also properly dressed and identified, have their license in hand so that they can be flying legally. Because one of the things that is happening, because especially because of the relief efforts, we have helicopters that are flying low. We have to get note to airmen, so it has to be well coordinated so that there's no accidents. And so there you're seeing several members of the team out in the field, and they're capturing the data. And this is just an example of the data that is being captured. Once they capture that data, we have an entire upload procedure. And then that upload procedure pretty much goes into us having to upload that data, but we were having some bottlenecks. We were using Starlink in the fields. We have to have inverters in the vehicle and all of these things. And we have so many lessons learned, I tell you. And so now we have gotten a new partner on board, a private sector partner, Iron Rock Insurance. They're dedicating service space, they're getting a dedicated fiber line, and they're going to be assisting us with the uploads so that we can move some of that bottleneck. Because a 3x3 grid, which is what we were given from government of Jamaica, basically one grid is 50 gigabytes of data. So we're talking about big data. So we are sitting on terabytes of data. And so not only do we have to do that upload, but in an effort to serve it out properly, which is what you're looking at, an example of a product here. And I'm going to try to show you, I'm going to attempt to do something live here. So I'm going to stop sharing this and then I'm going to share again. And then we have to do some resampling. We have to make sure that it is in a digestible way so that persons can actually use it. So this is an example, and I'm hoping that you're seeing my screen, but this is an example. And if we zoom in, you can see the level of devastation, but you also see that it's fairly easy for someone to now access it via the browser, as opposed to the kind of big data that I was talking about. So that just gives you an example into the level of devastation and as to what it is that we are capturing and what we're seeing on the ground as well. So I hope that this gives you an appreciation for what the drone mapping exercise really entails in Jamaica. Thank you. Hand back to you, Simone. Also, if there are any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right. Thank you so much, Valerie, for that. With that, we're going to take a few questions at current. Susanna, do we have any questions? Any
Not
questions in the chat?
Not as yet.
Any hands raised? No hands raised, so we're good. No questions, no questions, no questions.
Okay, one question.
All right, go ahead.
Are drones being provided or funded by international agencies?
No, as I mentioned, we're a nonprofit, and the collaboration is pretty much through our own efforts. It's not being funded by international agencies. We have gotten support from Humanitarian OpenStreetMap. We have gotten support from We Robotics, and we are also getting support from private sector organizations in different ways. Me being here on the ground, that is through support. We are also getting drones that are coming and teams of people coming with drones like CARIGEO. They send 5 persons, they have drones. They have also donated drones to Jamaica Flying Labs. Wintra had someone on the ground flying. You know, the global community has been assisting a lot. We still need more assistance. And so this is one of the areas that we still continue to need assistance in. The private sector company I mentioned, they are all using their own resources to assist in the upload. So it's all us doing it together, coming together to try to make sure that this happens.
Okay, the next question is, who does the data belong to after it is collected? And they also want to know how large is the mapping team?
So the mapping team does fluctuate, and it depends, as I mentioned, the volunteers that are in. So from time to time, we also have government agencies that are part of the mapping team, or National Land Agency, the Forestry Department. So it fluctuates, and it's not every day that everybody can be out. But we assign and we coordinate that. In terms of who the data belongs to, ultimately, it will become open data. But at this point in time, we are not opening the data until we get the nod from government of Jamaica.
Okay, so before I go to the next question, somebody asked, how many additional volunteers do you need?
That's a big question. We are not refusing volunteers, but we ask that volunteers are able to be self-sufficient. Because that means that we are going out in the field, there is hotel, there is transportation, there's flights to come here. And given, like we said, this is all being done voluntarily. So we have to make sure that the volunteers we're accepting at this point in time understand that they would actually have to be self-funded.
Okay. How did you manage to produce a seamless mosaic, given that you probably acquired images from different small UAVs? Did you perform a rigorous OFO rectification process?
Yes, we have team members capable of doing that. Dr. Edwards, he is our photogrammetric specialist. He's in the background working. We have an entire global flying labs network that is doing that. So those are some technical details that, we'll be producing paper. You should come to our conference in May, which has been rescheduled to May 5th to 7th, where you will learn, there will be a lot of lessons learned. And we are hoping that this can be a roadmap and a framework for the rest of the region.
Can an ordinary man, I guess an everyday citizen with a drone, volunteer to join the team? Will they be trained to support that team?
Yes.
Next question, how many people form part of the drone mapping operation? I think you basically answered that. How many locations was this team deployed? To how many locations was this team deployed? How many drone launching and charging stations do you have? Or do you have mobile? Do you have these mobile?
So all of these are good questions. So we have been deployed across 5 main impacted parishes, that there are other parishes as well. So primarily Savannah Lamar, we have Hanover, Trelawney, we have St. Elizabeth, we have St. James, but we've done other work in Manchester. We have also done work in St. Anne, so several parishes, and the work is ongoing. Jamaica, though a small island developing state, is big comparably, and so there is a lot more mapping that needs to take place. We have, at any given time, we have numbers of drones fluctuating. When the CARIGEO team was here, they alone had 10 drones on the ground. Right now, they have gone back, so we are missing 10 drones. Winter has gone back, so we are missing another major drone. So those are the things. So I could not tell you exactly the numbers at this point in time. I do not have that statistics readily available. We have been using inverters, batteries. We have been using different things to do the charging. And so that we have had to get creative with. There are several inverters in the vehicles to charge. And then we also have to stay at a place where the batteries can be charged overnight as well. So those are some of the things that has been happening.
Okay, the final question I see for now, how is quality control and data verification managed?
That is being managed. We have an overall workflow that goes from how you assign the pilots, as you see in everything, down to the quality checks, and that is being managed by the Flying Labs Network, We Robotics, and the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, through the GRI team with Dr. Edwards at the helm. So we have these qualified persons who is making sure that everything is actually in place. And Dr. Edwards is also an advisor to Jamaica Flying Labs.
Okay, these are all the questions for now.
All right. Thank you for all the questions. And as I said, we are also documenting. Not only are we documenting the lessons learned, because there have been so many lessons learned. What you see in theory, what you put down on paper, is not what ultimately happens in practice in the field. And so we've had to be pivoting. We've been documenting the lessons learned. We are sure that there will be papers, whether white papers coming out, but certainly at our conference in May, a lot of the lessons learned will be coming out as well. Simone, over to you. Simone said that this is one of those times that some of our key players are not here. And so I'm thinking that she's trying to, in the background, coordinate some of that, and she can give me a little bit of a thumbs up on that if that is the case.
Valerie, this is Cecile. In the meantime, when Simone comes on, are you hearing me?
Hearing you.
Share with us for the time being some of the lessons that you have learned now, please. Thanks.
Okay, so
I'm interested not from logistics side, but maybe from a data management side. For those of the persons online who are geospatial data managers. You spoke about terabytes of data. What are some of the lessons you have learned from a geospatial data management perspective?
Well, first to begin with, we've learned that if we should ever do this again, we need some kind of a mobile data center to be able to literally go to the teams and do a drop each day so that we can actually upload that data. So that's one of the things that would have to be contemplated to make it more seamless so there are no bottlenecks in the process. We have also learned that we have pivoted on our file naming convention because we recognize not the file naming convention. The file naming convention, yes, to a certain extent, but we had it at a high level first. We're now down to each grid and we have folders. And because we're coordinating worldwide, we also have to have a color code system with those folders so that somebody doesn't go in and start processing when the data is not fully uploaded. So they have to get a green, for argument's sake, before they are able to process. We're now managing that through the experience builder as well, where the flying labs will now be able to see, okay, this grid is completed, and so you can go ahead and process. Because in the first time, we had a situation where, okay, they processed 2,000 images, and in the morning somebody said, oh, wow, but this folder now has 10,000 images, simply because all the data was not uploaded, but they didn't know that, and there was no way for them to know that beforehand. And so now that was something that we learned early on, we have put in place so that they can actually have a cue now when to go ahead and start the processing. So that's one example.
Okay, thanks for that.
We're also in a position where, we're learning things on the data side, the technical side, but these days I also operate on the social side, and we're learning so many of the social lessons. As I said, it's hard to see what is going on the ground. We are learning things that could feed directly into the emergency operations here, because if we're on the ground and we're a resource on the ground already, we should be able to report when a community has not yet seen anybody and people are telling you we're hungry. We should be able to directly have a way to report that. And so those are some of the recommendations that we're making, even in addressing some of those social issues. We have gone out there, and though not our primary responsibility, we're seeing where graves are being, the storm has caused them to be uprooted. We are seeing where sewage system, and we're seeing people walking through these water, and we know that this is going to be a public health situation. And so being able to, if though not our primary responsibility, report those things are some of the things that we're saying. We should not have to make a call, but we should have a mechanism that quickly tells somebody that this is what's
my question is, right, because isn't NERGIST responsible for mapping? Yes, drones capture the imagery, right? But in terms of actual disaster risk management and the kind of data sets that NERGIST would be responsible for capturing, I'm not sure if other speakers will be speaking about this, but isn't there a mechanism to also capture where all the infrastructure works will have been affected and impacted, and so this kind of data would be captured, recorded, and uploaded in their general database?
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is in terms of my point is that even though you're out for a particular thing, there needs to be some kind of cross collaboration, and that's a lesson learned that we have passed on, so that their persons not being their primary responsibility should still be able to say, okay, I see this, it's dire. I'm not going to wait until somebody else comes. I'm going to feed that information in.
Okay, Valerie, I have two more questions. How are you addressing the marine space?
Well, at this point in time, that's not the immediate attention. I'm sure that will be shifted. It's something that we have in mind. We've spoken with the hydrogeologist, not the hydrogeologist, sorry, the hydrographic surveyors, and we have assisted them in making sure that they have drone imagery for different ports. They have then gone in and they've created charts to make sure that there can be safe passage. So that is being done. They have done their checks. After the fact, now I know that there will be a requirement for deeper dive, but safe passage for relief coming in was very critical, and that has been addressed, and we have assisted with making sure that those ports, they have the imagery for them pretty early.
Okay, so when you see, I guess, those situations on ground, for example, you said you saw people walking in sewage, do you have an alert system in place that sends messages automatically to agencies responsible for providing a response?
So my direct answer to that was one of the things that I said could be enhanced. It's a lesson learned. It's something that we have said in one of the coordination meetings we were sitting in, that is something. So I'm sure that the authorities are looking into it. But if it had existed, we didn't know of it. And so that's why we raised the alarm about that.
Is Simone back? Is she still missing?
Yes, I'm back. I'm back, Cecile. Thank you, Valerie, for continuing. The internet went by us, so a number of us got kicked out of the meeting. So apologies for that. Yeah,
I suppose these are the things that happen in the midst of a disaster. So
yes, the wire went, the Wi-Fi went, the data services went, everything went. So we're back.
So team, you're experiencing this with us here in Jamaica in real time. These are some of the things we're facing on a day-to-day basis. And so it tells you that even in terms of capturing data and uploading data, these are some of the challenges that we're facing, even in Kingston. And one of the other lessons that we've learned while Simone catches our thought is that the fact that Starlink degrades when you have too many people using it. It's not, so even though you think you have lots of bandwidth, if there's several people logged on, then you're degraded to probably just making a cell phone call, or if you're on Wi-Fi, sending an email. It's not going to handle the kind of data that we need to handle.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you so much for that, Valerie. So yes, thank you so much, Val, for the support from Jamaica Flying Labs. It has been extremely key, given all that we've had to deal with where this event is concerned, given the level of devastation, given the areas that have been totally inaccessible, based on the level of flooding, and based on other concerns that that the teams have had to deal with. So in response to Cecile's question, and I'm going to use that to pivot and to share screen. I'm hoping in sharing, you're able to see my screen? Hoping yes. So. All right. So Jamaica's National Emergency Response GIS team would have been established, would have started work, and this would have been through efforts of Cecile, also through efforts of Valerie, and Mrs. DaCosta, Jacqueline DaCosta, as the founder of the LICJ. And the efforts would have started back way in the early 2000s. In particular, major event of which was pivotal, where the formation of NERGIST was concerned, or the concretization of that would have been Hurricane Ivan. So given the level of devastation, support was needed on ground in Jamaica to support the ODPM, looking at who are the GIS persons that are in Jamaica, who have these requisite skills and knowledge base, and who have resources in their organization that can contribute to the whole mapping support that was needed for the ODPM. All right. And so NERGIST would have been born given the efforts of these foundational persons. And so we've grown since then in terms of the team, the persons that are involved. It involves a number of key government agencies. I'm actually in a NERGIST vest currently right now. It has NERGIST written on the back. And we go out in the field to provide support to ODPEM whenever there's a major event and ODPEM needs to activate its National Emergency Operations Center. Currently, the NEOC is at level 3 activation. At level 3 activation, that means that all the key players that are members of the NEOC currently sit and on a daily basis are going to the ODPM, are reporting on a daily basis in terms of what the level of what the support that is needed in terms of if there is damage that's happening that has occurred, and they need to provide support. So the emergency services, Jamaica Fire Brigade, Jamaica Defense Force, Jamaica Constabulary Force, other key players such as the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, the Red Cross, so the humanitarian bodies also, government agencies such as the National Works Agency, National Water Commission, utility companies such as Digicel, Flow, and the listing goes on, all the core entities. So whether there be also the various parish disaster coordinators who are in charge of each of the parishes whenever there is an event in terms of dealing with coordinating response efforts. So it is a national effort that has all of these persons who sit within the NEOC or who are contributing information on a daily basis, and then a situational report is developed on a daily basis that advises what is the status of the current situation in terms of level of impact and what is the level of support that is being provided. So what I have on screen is a tool, and it is an ArcGIS Survey 123 tool that would have been developed by NERGIST to support conducting initial damage assessments. So whenever it's a case whereby ODPEM reaches out and requests that we provide support, we then activate NERGIST and we then call on our member organizations. And our member organizations are varied, and we're very thankful for their support because it's really through volunteerism and they're giving up their time and effort to actually go in the field through rigorous conditions, as Valerie would have shared, to go and collect the data that is necessary to inform decisions where the NEOC is concerned. So who are these entities? The National Water Commission, National Housing Trust, National Works Agency, Water Resources Authority, National Spatial Management Branch, members of the ODPM, the Agricultural Management Division. Am I missing out anyone who has been core? National Land Agency, I think I mentioned already. And Mines and Geology, Water Resources, I would have mentioned, and the listing goes on. So it depends on the response, who is it that's activated and who is able to provide support. On this occasion, we're able to get additional support from, apart from the government agencies, we got additional support from UWI Mona's Caribbean School of Data, who came on board, all right, through their Pegasus project. So it was quite interesting that we went through training recently in how to train communities in conducting community hazard mapping exercises. And then came this event where they had to apply that knowledge in terms of dealing with the response efforts in their communities. So on the board, on the screen you're seeing is the initial damage assessment tool, of which we use to conduct a lot, collect a lot of the data that was necessary to support the assessment. So with that, it speaks to the parishes that were assessed, and these are the parishes that were most devastated, as you can see. They're in Western Jamaica. It speaks to that. It also speaks to the type of buildings. So when we do initial damage assessments, we look at the buildings that are impacted in the communities. So are there houses? So are there institutional buildings such as churches, schools? Are there residential facilities in terms of homes, houses? Are they commercial in terms of businesses? Are there recreational activities? So we look at that in terms of doing the assessment. Apart from looking at that, we also go through the process of looking at what type of building they are. So apart from the functionality, are they a single story? Are they multi-story? Are they duplex? That level of information is also captured in addition to the description with respect to the event. And the names of the specific buildings, so if they're particular schools, we'll also capture that in terms of the names of the schools or the particular institutional buildings that have been impacted, because that informs if it's a case whereby those need particular assistance with respect to support in terms of restoration efforts. Apart from that, we also look at the type of the building in terms of the material that was used to build the building, but also the damage level. And the damage level is very important. So is it a case where there was no damage? Was there no significant damage? Was there minor damage, major damage, or total devastation? So that assessment is done for each of the communities that we go into. Importantly, for this event, before we went out in the field, the ODPM representative that of Sashage, so Sashage is our key contact in terms of our NERGIST liaison. So anything that the NEOC needs is communicated through her to us, and then we organize in order to then be able to provide the support that is needed. With that, the level of damage is important in terms of the buildings. So it's core in terms of getting that level of information that will then inform what then happens afterwards in terms of restoration efforts. So too, the importance of capturing photos of the level of damage. Very important. So we encourage our team members to capture photos as best as possible of what they're seeing in the field, and Val would have done a good job of giving you some aerial shots based on the drone mapping that would have been done where that is concerned. And so images, very important, looking at the type of damage. So are there areas that have blocked roads? Are there areas that have road breakaways, broken pipelines, collapsed bridges, debris, fallen trees, fallen or broken utility poles, flooding in the areas, landslide, wind damage, etc. So these are the things that we tend to, and this is informed by what ODPEM requests us to capture. So they would have gone in the field, Sasha would have gone in the field with the Jamaica Defense Force to an initial reconnaissance of the primary parishes that have been affected significantly. So they would have done an initial aerial flyover using helicopters to look at what was the extent, and then based on that, that would have helped to inform us with respect to which communities to then target when we go in to do the on-ground initial damage assessments. Yeah, so aerial flyover happens, underground assessments happen in terms of initial damage assessments using this instrument, but also the use of the drones to do the flying, also to capture images and videos of the extent. Yeah, so all of this happens. All right, so whatever the incident is in terms of mapping and the whatever the event, definitely in terms of capturing as much photos as we possibly can is very key. All right, so just wanted to share that. So I hope that helped, Cecile, in terms of what you were asking. You were asking about what NERGIST deals with in terms of what type of data we capture when we're doing damage assessment.
Yes, Simone. You have said NERGIS captures basically what ODPM asks, but what you have shared with me is really the physical infrastructure in terms of damage and to some extent our utilities. But in terms of the social impact on the people, who manages that kind of thing in terms of the assessment? Because that would impact how distribution in terms of the social health, food, that kind of thing is managed. And the next thing for me is how is I posted a question, agricultural assessment done in terms of damage to crops and livestock. Who does that kind of assessment?
All right, good. All right, so for the first part, so in the NEOC, as I mentioned before, the different players. One major player is that of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. So they conduct those social assessments. So they have a specific tool that they use, a digital survey that they use, using, I think it's Global Collect is what they use to collect that data. And that collects for the households what the needs are. So that's where the social assessment gets done. Ministry of Labor and Social Security also deals with the packages. So food packages that are prepared, care packages, those are then distributed.
Simone, my question to you is, yes, Kobo Collect is a geospatial data collecting tool, right? Yes. So you're saying to me that that data is georeferenced. Is it brought into your geospatial system that ODPM has, or it's in a separate system that that ministry manages?
So
Because
it is in a
from
separate system that Ministry of
yes.
Labor and Social Security manages. Efforts are being made to bring it over into what is being done where Optum is concerned. So currently, there are 3 dashboards that are being developed, which is why Alicia is in another meeting dealing with that. Apart from dashboards that deal with monitoring the emergency shelters and the status of those shelters from before the hurricane passes and while it's going on and afterwards, in terms of monitoring that, status of shelters and who is there and their needs, then comes other dashboards, of which the ODPM has recently reached out and said there's a need for these additional dashboards that then help to facilitate monitoring of overall operations of the NEOC, different from looking at other things, which also includes bringing in that type of data in terms of the social data, which then ties in with the other data that the NERGIST team and the Jamaica Flying Labs team are capturing. All right. So the efforts to try and integrate and bring everything together. All right. Which is why we're getting a lot of support from Esri to provide that support to assist with dealing with that technical side. Yes. Go ahead, Val. You wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that at the moment, so that was one of the lessons learned. Like just in terms of the speed at which the data comes over at this point in time, it is not ideal. Let's say that. And so that's one of the things that is being addressed. But there is a mechanism that the data should come over through some kind of a connector, even though it's not sitting in the same database, but it was not ideal because there are certain sensitive information that I guess ODPM was that would not be seen, and so they have to filter something and then it comes over. But all of those things are being addressed because it came up, and those are also some of the additional lessons learned in dealing with this event.
All right, thank you for that, Valerie. With respect to the agriculture question, Cecile, so that level of assessments are done by the Rural Agriculture Development Authority that sits in the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining. They're the ones who deal with conducting the agriculture sector assessment. All right, so they deal with that. So NERGIST doesn't deal with that. They deal with that, and then that data is then fed to the NEOC. It is also fed to the Planning Institute of Jamaica, which is currently going through the process of conducting the loss and damage, the damage and loss assessment based on this event, which is why Nadine is also string between that meeting that's dealing with the dollar and this meeting, this webinar. So yeah. So it depends on the mandate of the entity. They would then be responsible for the particular assessments. In addition to that, where the social assessments are concerned, the humanitarian bodies that are also on ground, the UN bodies that are on ground, so UN OCHA that's on ground, the World Food Program, and there are many others that form that core team in terms of humanitarian team that is here, that is operating here, which would have been requested by the Prime Minister in terms of providing support to Jamaica. So they are also key with respect to conducting their social assessments. All right, so between them and also the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
Okay, right. Can you take some questions, or do you want to continue with your presentation?
All right, and I can take 2 more.
Okay, so how much of the assessment has been completed at this time? And if it has not been completed, when is it expected to be complete?
Okay, that's a good question, which is a difficult question to answer. So the initial damage assessment is core. It usually happens within the first 48 hours. It may go up to a week after the event. So we have passed that time. We're into 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks after the event has occurred. So more rigorous underground detailed assessments are being conducted. So the social side. One of the things that would have been communicated is that there is a need for determining which communities are underserved. So which communities have not received any form of relief support as yet with respect to food or any other supplies. That's what is core right now in terms of priority. by the NEOC, by MLSS, and the humanitarian bodies. So underserved communities or least served communities, that's the focus right now. So we are going to, based on the information we've recently received, because we go through briefing sessions. So we were having briefing sessions before the hurricane came. So not just us having briefings before, at least a week before, straight through the weekend before the hurricane came, we were in meetings, planning, strategizing. And through the hurricane, we were in meeting mode, dealing with different aspects and stuff, right? So since then, given the briefings we've had as of this week, we know that we're going to need to more than likely provide support where that is concerned with respect to identifying the underserved communities. So that's a major focus right now. When will the assessment be complete? That's a difficult question. I don't know how to answer that. Given the level of devastation, we cannot put a timeline as to how long it will take to finish the assessments, given how much assessments, given the level of impact that it has had. And one of the things which complicates matters is the fact that for some of the parishes, it's a rainy season for Jamaica. So rain is happening sometimes on a daily basis in a number of these parishes. And so parishes which have been devastated are still going through rain, intermittent rain on a daily basis, which then adds to making the situation a bit more uncomfortable for persons who have lost their entire homes or lost their entire roofs. And so it kind of perpetuates the current situation or makes it worse, essentially. So with that also, and I'm not sure Valerie spoke to that when I dropped out in terms of the internet, but she would have explained to us in terms of our briefing sessions that there are times when the drone teams could not go out because rain was falling. When rain is falling, of course, it's not safe for the drone for the team members to be out, nor for any equipment to be sent up. Right? So that would have also created lags with respect to being able to conduct the drone mapping exercises. Accessibility to areas is still a challenge for some areas because the water is rising in some communities still. So there are communities in which either entire homes are underwater or a significant amount of them, or roads leading to are underwater in parts. And so accessibility in some areas is a challenge. Given reports from the Jamaica Defense Force, they've had to do helicopter drops in some communities in terms of trying to get supplies to them based on challenges in terms of accessibility or being able to do so in a quicker manner. All right. So there are those type of delays. So with respect to the assessments, can't speak to when they'll be finished, and also can speak to how much of the assessments have been conducted. A lot has been done. Given what NERGIST has been done, this time we were aided significantly by the Jamaica Defense Force. So apart from us going out in the field, the Jamaica Defense Force team, they also use the tool to do a lot of the initial damage assessments, different from the drone mapping teams, which also did their assessments using the drones. So it's a collaborative effort with a lot of different players to make it all work. All right, to make it all happen. Cool. Okay. We have our panelists?
You have one last question, but I think you have partly approached it. How do government agencies and communities send or share damage and hazards to feed this dashboard that you're showing? Could agencies or communities in the ground provide live reporting via a mix of text, videos, and pictures for this information to be geo-referenced automatically on a map?
Okay. All right. So thank you for that question. So before the event occurred, through a collaboration between NERGIST, Jamaica Flying Labs, Humanitarian OpenStreetMap, the UMONA Caribbean School of Data, we would have established a chat map group embedded in WhatsApp. So there was a special group established, chat map group, and that would have spoken to Jamaica's public response to Hurricane Melissa. In that group that was established, we would have invited, we would have pushed out from the Saturday before the event. This was a couple of days, like 4 days before the event. We would have pushed out via social media and invited the general public in Jamaica to access and join the group and to contribute to us, share with us their current location and photo of whatever damage that they were seeing in their area, in addition to a caption which would describe what the actual impact was in terms of whatever level of damage. So we would have started that then, and we would have been monitoring that, and it still continues to be monitored. We would have surpassed in terms of, we would have capped that at 1,025 in terms of what was the maximum that could have been contributed. So we had a lot of persons who came on board, and they were actively, before the event happened, they were discussing. So they started communicating with respect to looking at checking on persons, how are you doing? Asking for guidance in terms of getting supplies and all of that before the event. And then during and after the event, then came the photos and those location points, and also those captions that would have explained what it is that they were seeing. So we were collecting a lot of that. And then that was collected was then fed through the help of Humanitarian OpenStreetMap. They then used that to push to a map, and then that would have been there would have been a collaboration between that and that being pushed and utilized by Esri to then feed into another map. And Alicia, not sure if she is with us now or when she's able to, she'll be speaking to that in terms of what that effort looked like. So yes, we were getting a lot of support in terms of persons from the public contributing. Because our group was maxed, we then started our next group. So there were two groups that are still active, of which we've been getting feedback from. They've kind of lessened in terms of getting that type of data, but we were actively getting that from the general public. What is happening now is we're encouraging, given the level of, because each member of parliament is allotted a certain amount of resources to then provide relief and support in their constituency. And so what we're doing now, we're encouraging members of parliament, persons within their constituencies, if you have any level of damage, please reach out to your constituency office, reach out to your member of parliament, and with that, communicate with them so that they can get from you directly what is happening. So a photo of the damage where your house is concerned, details in with respect to your information, your name and other contact information, your TRN, etc., and photos. So photos are key, the info is key, and with that, that is then what is used now to feed into us being able to collate as a ministry, so the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development, the support that these ministers, these MPs need in terms of being able to distribute the monies that they have in terms of being able to assist with getting the construction material purchased for the various individuals who are impacted. All right. So there's that support that is being provided, but it's through the members of parliament in the constituencies. So that is happening. All right. I think I've answered that. So apart from that, we don't have any other collaborative public effort right now. There are the chat maps that are still open. Our aim is to close those by the end of this month. But they're still open. So if it's a case whereby we're getting data from persons who are indicating what is happening and stuff, that helps in terms of us being able to feed that, in terms of who may need to get that information to then assist with whatever relief support. But key right now really is for persons in their communities to be able to liaison with their constituency office or with their member of parliament, because they have resources that are assigned to them to particularly help with relief efforts. Okay. All right. I think we're good in terms of questions. Yay.
You have two more.
No, Susanna, hold 1 sec, please. 1 sec. Valerie, where are we? Do we have our panelists? Please check if we have our panelists, please. Are they with us? Okay, while you're checking, I'll take the next question, Susanna.
Okay, how can professional organizations, say Jamaican Institute of Architects or Jamaica Institute of Engineers, who can assist in this collaboration, get in contact?
Okay, which specific collaboration is a question in relation to?
S. White, can you respond while the other question
Yes, when you say collaboration, what are you thinking? Are you thinking in what respect? So while you're thinking that, so you can clarify. Do we have our panelists, Valerie? Do we have Ronald? Do we have Nadine?
I have not seen, I don't think Nadine is making it, and I do not see Ronald. I don't know if Alvaro or somebody could just verify if he's there. But if not, Simone, please,
Is
I
Alicia
have
with
you
us?
and I have you and I have Matthew, and so we can
Yes.
jump right in.
Okay, please. As mentioned, guys, based on what is happening and the level of support that is needed, there are other meetings that are happening now because the damage and loss assessment has to be conducted, which is why Nadine is busy because the ECLAC team spearheads that. So I think they're actively on ground in Jamaica where that is concerned, and so they're tied up in those meetings, dealing with that, plus the dashboards that need to be developed, that have been developed, I'm told, and are being rolled out today to provide additional geospatial support to the NEOC. There are meetings happening where that is concerned. So yeah, we're navigating all of that. All right. So please bear with us. Matthew, thank you for your patience. Thank you for being on before time and for patiently waiting throughout. Over to you, Valerie.
All right. Thank
And
you,
then we'll take
everybody.
the additional questions at the end. All right, before we
Okay.
wrap up.
All right, thanks everybody. Again, we wanted to just have some key questions to some of the persons who have been integral in terms of this response. As Simone has explained, two of the critical persons, they are presently in other meetings. And so this panel really is meant to give you, be that kind of exchange that provides you with what has been happening to influence the operational decisions in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. And so while also highlighting some of the cross collaboration, the lessons learned, some of the things that we've actually been talking about. And so Matthew and Simone are here. And so I want to give, starting with Simone, I'm going to come back to you, Simone. Just, you have said quite a bit, but if you would be able to tell us one core insight that you've gotten. You've dealt with different relief efforts, response efforts under the NERGIST hat. But for Melissa, what's that one core insight that you've gotten from the Melissa response? And one, if you give me an example of that, that would be great.
Okay, Valerie. So NERGIST has responded to different types of events. We've responded to, so I'm going to start off with that, bushfires, flood events, landslides, tropical storms, hurricanes, different from disease related. So COVID-19, chickpea. Last year, we would have responded to Hurricane Beryl. Beryl was a category 4. We would have learned a lot about collaborating with the UN entities that have to come in Ireland and provide support locally, and what they need in terms of on-the-ground support, in terms of understanding the dynamics, also language, with respect to the fact that a lot of us as Jamaicans, we speak patois, so that language barrier there in terms of being able to communicate with the general populace when they go in the communities, also being able to understand which areas are prime in terms of priority to then visit to conduct the social assessments that they conduct. And so that collaboration, so coming out of the response efforts, so on this occasion where Melissa is concerned, we would have been more involved in terms of dealing with the teams, not necessarily on ground in the field, but on the back end in terms of understanding what their needs are, guiding them based on the work that we have been doing so far on ground, and informing them accordingly so that it can help them to refine their approach in terms of different things that they may need to do in terms of their operations. So lesson learned out of Melissa is the importance of partnership, the importance of collaboration. Coordinating with the national government entities is one thing. Bringing on board volunteer groups, bringing on board private sector entities, bringing on board other volunteers, and also sensitizing or training volunteers who've never been in the field before so that they are armed, they're more prepared to deal with the field deployments, was a challenge of which we had to deal with, plus also the importance of pre-planning. One of the lessons we've learned significantly is the importance of pre-planning. This event was very different from any other event we have ever dealt with. Very different. So based on all the tools that we've developed, all the dashboards that are being developed, all of those things, we know that based on all the work that is being done now, we're going to be in a much better state with respect to providing support for the 2026 North Atlantic hurricane season next year. Because what we've developed now, which is a lot of work, is going to feed into that. It's going to make life easier because all that we did now was not needed last year. The level of devastation we're going through now, where Melissa is concerned, was not the case. As devastating as Beryl was last year in July, Melissa is at different level. When they said that it's greater than Hurricane Katrina, that speaks volumes. Greater than Ivan, which impacted us significantly, and Gilbert. That's just, yeah, mind blowing, literally. So collaboration, partnership, the importance of geospatial tools, the ones that we're developing that we never had to develop before, but there's a need for them, and the importance of local, regional, and international partners to support the technical know-how that is needed to do all of that work, and then having those things ready and available to then provide support next year.
Okay, thanks, Simone. And as you speak about technical tools and you speak about those things, Matthew, it's ideal for me to come to you. You are a VP at Spatial Innovation. Tell us, from your lens, what's that one core insight from Melissa response, and what that's the one example?
Firstly, I think Simone took like 4 insights, talking about the tools and the collaboration. But firstly, I'd like to echo the collaboration point of it, and primarily because I know a few months ago we would have met with bigger agencies within Jamaica and under the government of Jamaica, and there was the big concern was collaboration. So it was very interesting and very encouraging to see in the response to Hurricane Melissa how agencies began to collaborate. Particularly in the Esri ecosystem, in the RGI system, how partner collaborations were set up so easily, and people were able to share data through that. Outside of that, what I can say is that Jamaica is in a good geospatial health is good compared to the region. We're one of the stronger players. The government of Jamaica, with their belief in the system and how they've been able to roll out the system, it came in timely, so that even when devastation had hit us, it's not like we're starting from scratch. So I would say that the NERGIST team does have a level head and know what they're doing in that degree. One short example, I remember, I think the hurricane hit on a Tuesday, and probably by like the Thursday, Friday, I know the JDF had set up their common operating picture, which was because they were the teams that would have gone out first to check where the roadblocks were, to check where people were, and utilizing that now could help to inform other stakeholders to say, okay, we can enter this area. And as the days progressed, they continually updated that dashboard so you could see, different events happening in different areas and know how to treat for those areas. So, yeah, that's my 2-minute entrance.
All right, thanks, Matthew. I'm going to stay with you a little bit because you started down the road of talking about what Hurricane Melissa teaches about geospatial readiness. You said that we're in good geospatial health. So that's a strength, but are there gaps? Are there bottlenecks?
Definitely a few gaps were highlighted. For sure is the need for licensed drone pilots. That was something that I would have echoed this morning as well. Gaps as well is that everything kind of happens in an uncanny way, because just I think in September, Simone and I were out by the University of West Indies talking to students about geospatial careers. Talking about the need for geospatial analysts and how this is if you want to call it a future-proof career going into 2030. And the level of devastation of Hurricane Melissa could not hide that gap. It shows that even how many of us that we do have on the ground, there were times when the teams were meeting with the international partners, and sometimes we couldn't figure out things locally. And you had those specialists who came in and supported us. So it's definitely to get training up. And I know that from the GIS in Schools program, I know we were also having conversations about that. It also highlights that, hey, looking forward to the years to come, how can we, get this technology in schools so that you can have a crop of students coming up from the, I'd say kindergarten, but from the primary level right through university to tertiary, so that if we have these incidents, you have more geospatial professionals to pull on for that. But in terms of the products and the software, the teams were pretty much ready to deploy. They pretty much had everything in their toolkit. It was just now, how do we put together the right structure to respond to this Hurricane Melissa disaster? Yeah.
Thanks, Matthew. Same question to you, Simone. From your lens, what are our strengths, what are the gaps, and what are the bottlenecks?
Okay, so one strength is how the NEOC is structured in terms of the various players, the emergency entities, different from the utility companies, all of them, and the strategic role that they play, but also where NERGIST sits in terms of us providing geospatial support. So the skills that we come with, because we are from different government entities, some are from private sector entities, some are from academia. And so we come with different geospatial skills. So there are persons who will be working on the actual geospatial tools, customizing them. There are others who prefer to be in the NEOC, dealing with the mapping that happens in the NEOC, which would be during the event, after the event. There are those of us who prefer to be in the field, doing the underground deployments and conducting the initial damage assessments and seeing what actually is happening and being able to capture that data. And so based on the team, we have persons with a variety of skills, and based on the variety of skills and interests, we're able to pull on what their strengths are to then be able to provide the support that we need to provide to the NEOC and the needs of the NEOC. I'm happy Matthew spoke about partners, the importance of partners, because there are times when there are skills that there are things that we don't know how to do, right? And as a GIS professional, one has to constantly evolve, one has to constantly learn, one has to constantly pivot. All right, that's very important. So there are many times along the way where we had to do whatever research. There are many times along the way where we had to reach out. So whether it was to Esri, whether it was to Special Vision Limited, whether it was to other partners who have other resources that can lend support, we would rely on them to deal with different aspects. So the importance of relying on the strengths and the skills of the persons that you have in terms of the internal team, but also the partners that provide support and what are their skills. So they will come with particular resources in terms of physical resources, such as the drone teams. And before, last year, we were responding to Beryl. Then we had the Jamaica Fire Brigade and Jamaica Defense Force. They were the two core entities that provided drone support to NERGIST when we went in the field. On this occasion, given the level of devastation, Jamaica Flying Labs. And so we're thankful that, Valerie, your team was able to come on board and to coordinate all of that, work with the Jamaica Civil Aviation, and then to coordinate all the various support we were getting from different entities, locally and regionally, internationally, who also wanted to provide that support. Yeah? So looking at your players, what are their strengths, pulling on that, and plugging that into whatever key areas are necessary to provide the support that's needed.
Yeah, thanks for that, Simone. And it seems like there has just been a series of activities that has kind of led us to be in a place where we could have quickly started to get things going. You speak of the drone team. CDMA had the UAS for CDM program, and that helped us to sensitize the Civil Aviation Authority. Out of that also came the Bureau of Standard UAS Committee. All of these structures has kind of helped us to pull things together. And we also had from Jamaica Flying Labs this collaborative learning project. So the week before Melissa, we were actually meeting with PIOJ, with NERGIST, with everybody, and we were thinking about all of these things. And so to kind of just jump right in, we've just kind of expanded into what this looks like. So I want to ask you all though.
Valerie, if I could, before, just to add to what you're just saying. So there were a number of things which were literally being aligned or getting into alignment to prepare us for this event, literally. Back in June was when the UMONA Caribbean School of Data, through their Pegasus project, would have reached out to ADPEM, to NERGIST, to say they're having this project. They want to look at disaster hazard mapping in communities. They want to train persons in the use of particular geospatial tools, and also in conducting drone assessments, drone mapping. And then NERGIST went through being a part of trainings in drone mapping, trainings in additional geospatial tools, and then being able to provide support with community hazard mapping in 2 core communities that are usually high risk where particular events are concerned. One which is a coastal community, Albion in St. Thomas, and another which is in deep rural Ginger Ridge. And then that was up to September. And then came this event by end of October. So we were able to literally apply skills that we learned during those trainings under that project and apply them to this situation. All right. So in all respects, we were being prepared for this, literally. All right.
All right. So I want to ask both of you, though, and primarily you, Simone, because you're on the government end of things. How do we turn all of this data we've collected, all of this work we've been doing in geospatial, whether the satellite imagery we're getting through other programs, the field teams that are out there, into real operational impact? So what I'm asking really is, how do we ensure that it actually gets transformed into decisions that is creating action that is needed for the people on the ground?
Very good question. Very good question. So thankfully, so a lot of data is being captured. NERGIST would have captured quite a bit. So too has JDF, using the same tool that we would have done. Jamaican Fan Labs, with the mapping support organizations, has also captured a lot of data. All of this data now needs to be processed. It all needs to be collated, integrated, all of that, which is why Alicia, our National Spatial Data or Principal Director for the NSAB, is key with respect to ensuring that the dashboards that are needed by ADPEM, that those have been developed to address different needs. So all of this data is going to be feeding into various dashboards that are going to be used to inform decision making. So the data will not be wasted at all, because there's a need for it given, and we're not sure how long there will be need in terms of restoration and recovery efforts. We figure it's going to be for quite a while, right? So all that's being captured is going to be needed now in the short term, medium term, and even long term. It's also going to be needed in terms of archival data as we also plan for the future, for next year's hurricane season and onwards. So the fact that dashboards have been established, they're being launched today or would have been launched today, those are going to be key in terms of integrating all of this. They're also going to be key in terms of facilitating the monitoring, also the decision making that needs to happen, and being used by the requisite policymakers and decision makers that are key at the various levels of government, but in particular the higher levels, who are the ones who really make the primary decisions, that really move things forward. And so we look forward to that happening. Right.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to now give the audience an opportunity to ask any questions that they may have. I'm also trying to be respectful of time, and I know we're already a little over. So if we could just get 2 questions, I think, Susanna.
Okay, let me
just to inform
what is there.
Sorry, Susanna. Just to inform Valerie that Alicia indicated that the meeting that she was in has finished, and so she is going to be joining us shortly. So we're going to be hoping to take her quick presentation, which gives a snapshot into these dashboards and all the additional work that has been done and is ongoing. All right, and that will lead us into the closing out. All right.
Okay.
So go ahead, Susanna.
The question with regard to the collaboration, the person said, thinking ahead as we seek to rebuild, it will be important to access the knowledge of these entities along with all other agencies you've mentioned prior. It would be important to have access to the wealth of information you have amassed to inform resilient town planning on construction methods. I think it's more like a contribution.
Okay.
Next question. I am interested in data access, analysis, and decision making. Was the data from past events used to support preparation for Melissa? How is the data collected being used for planning, recovery, and restoration?
Okay, so I think the second part has already been answered, but Simone, if you could just quickly answer the part about data from past events and how that has informed anything.
So usually the ODPM is key with respect to using archival data to guide the planning for future events. So when the Meteorological Services branch is going through the process of dealing with the monitoring of whichever system it is, they rely on the World Hurricane Center and they rely on archival data. And what they do is they match based on the path of the hurricane, based on the characteristics of the hurricane. It is actually compared with previous hurricanes, and so they can say, okay, this is similar to a previous event. It's taking a similar path. More than likely, this is going to be the particular outcome of it based on similarities with other past events, that type of a thing. So the Met Service does that, and so too does ODPEM. ODPEM relies on archival data, previous events, and what has happened before to also guide in how they plan for the future. So they would have done a lot of that. Where we're concerned, when the data is captured, when we capture the data, any products that we generate, all of those are provided to the OEPM in the NEOC so that they can use all of that to help to inform. So they would have used what we would have generated before to help them with the planning for the future. Do we use archival data? It depends on what it is that we are asked to do. Because we are primarily asked to conduct initial damage assessments, we're primarily asked to develop maps. So whether they are static maps that are showing current incidents or maps that show which communities. One of the maps that was prepared by a NERGIST member prior to the event would have been where are the high-risk communities? So where are the high-risk communities for particular hazards? And those communities would have been flagged and special attention played where they are concerned. The deployment of resources would have been key with respect to getting to those parishes where those communities are, so that the parishes as the coordinators will have sufficient resources beforehand if those communities were in need of said. So archival data is key with respect to any planning. More so depending on where the entity sits, they may rely on it more so than others. Yeah? But yes, very important. I hope I've answered the question, Valerie.
All right, thank you so much. So I want now to go ahead and ask the panelists to pretty much wrap up for me. I know that there are other questions. We will try to respond to you afterwards. There will be other opportunities to share accordingly. So here I'm going to ask the panelists to wrap up in one sentence. What's that one thing that Jamaica must not overlook as we go through response and recovery and we rebuild for a geospatial ready future?
I mean, I could start. I guess something that we've seen now is storage. How we manage storage. That's a big one. I know in the past maybe we've done a lot of like on-premise work. And now we kind of move into this hybrid cloud situation, which is good, which is adopted globally. It helped us in that push, but storing all of the data, especially the amount of data that we're capturing now, definitely something not to be overlooked. And for sure, as I preach, getting the youths involved, getting the youths involved as early as possible. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Matthew. And as Simone, I'm going to come to you, but I would be remiss if I did not use my private sector perspective. And given the fact that you know, UNGGI and private sector network, I think we cannot underestimate the value of the private sector. And I think, if anything, this event would have taught Jamaica that. I know that the private sector has showed up, and I'm hoping that the rest of the region recognizes that the private sector can be a key ally. Simone?
Yeah. In full support, Valerie, full support of that. So in closing out, we've learned a lot of lessons, and it will be very remiss of us, based on all the lessons we've learned, to essentially shelve, park, and just store those lessons. We need to keep them in the forefront of our minds, and with that, use them as a guide as we plan, as we strategize in terms of next steps. Because the level of support that is needed is going to be needed for some time to come, where this event is concerned, different from the importance of us preparing early in 2026 with respect to the next hurricane season and what that will look like in terms of providing support. Because we never dreamt that after going through a Category 4 last year, we would have been hit by a Category 5 this year. And for the impact to have been most in the same or very similar parishes, the same parishes were impacted significantly. So learning from that, pivoting from that, the level of support that Jamaica has garnered, support from other countries internationally. So international support, so bilateral support, different from technical support. Technical geospatial support has been overwhelming. It has been heartwarming, actually, in terms of the level of support we've been getting from the region and from various international players. Yeah. So whether they be UN bodies, whether they be other countries, whether they be UNGGIM, which has been core Jamaica as a UNGGIM member state within the Americas, and because we have been getting a lot of support from UNGGIM Americas through the board and through various players within the Americas region, different from the international scene. So we're very thankful for that. Matthew, from scratch, that we tend to be a bit more on the advanced side in terms of geospatial within the Caribbean region. And so with that, we already have a number of things in place in terms of resources, and we are continuing in terms of trying to ensure that we build the capacity of our team through various programs that we have and projects that we have to ensure that geospatial individuals have the requisite skills to execute work within their organizations, but also, given the fact that we have this National Emergency Response GIS team, that the members of the team have the requisite skills to be able to provide the support that's needed whenever we need to provide support. One of our aim also is to ensure that we expand the team as best as possible. And that's the other lesson that we've learned where this is concerned, that depending on the level of damage, it requires much more hands on deck to go into the parishes and do these assessments. And as you would have said, Valerie, it takes a lot of toll, physical toll, psychological toll, emotional toll, to get to the areas, to see the level of devastation, to interact with the persons that are impacted, and to be able to come back and to go back the next day. It's a lot. So having sufficient persons that can go and like do already in terms of tagging, so that we don't have the same persons being worn out, but we have shift changes, we have sufficient persons so that it spreads out, is important. All right. So we're going to be looking at that, how it is that we expand the team and pull on the resources that we have locally and to provide support. Another key thing is we were happy that we were able to get support from other Caribbean countries. So I spoke about the chat map groups. The St. Lucia came on board, Barbados came on board significantly to help with the monitoring of those groups, because our concern was, if when we were impacted by the hurricane, what if we don't have internet? What if we don't have that? What if we can't connect? What then happens to the groups in terms of monitoring and being able to interact with the persons and all that? And so we're happy for that level of support that we got.
Simone, I'm going to cut you. I know you have a lot to share, but
so
here it is that there's so much. And so to close it out, as in the panel, I just want to say that We want to thank you. We know that this is not the typical way we celebrate GIS, but given the moment, we thought it would have been appropriate for us to at least have this conversation so we can share some of the lessons so that we can learn together, and to also thank you for your support, for standing with us, for just sending us little notes to let us know that you're right there with us, even when you're not physically here, and for offering always to do whatever you can to support the efforts. I think we have a lot of lessons learned. We are going to document them. We recognize the value that things have to be locally led. It has to have local capacity, but we have to stand in solidarity with the global community. And so we welcome the efforts of the global community, but we also keep to understand that the local knowledge is critical in being the people at the forefront in terms of the response. So with that, I thank you. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Simone. And thank you all for staying with us and for being here. And I know that Simone said that Alicia is coming, so I'll hand back to Simone for that segment. Thank you all.
All right, thank you so much. I am not sure if she has joined. Are we seeing Alicia? Are we seeing Alicia by chance? Are we seeing Alicia? Is she on?
Alicia Edwards
I'm not
is
able
there.
to see
What's the last name?
currently.
Edwards.
No, she's not. Okay. Oops.
Well,
okay, she's not.
And we are at 146. My recommendation is that we will be sharing more lessons as we go. So you'll have all
Yes.
opportunities.
Alicia is there.
I'm seeing Alicia.
She's here now?
Yes.
I'm seeing it.
Wonderful. Alicia, you
She
know
needs
you've
to be
given
made
her a lot of pressure from
she needs to be made a
morning.
panelist.
Yeah, I think she has to be promoted to be a panelist because
Yes.
she's in that.
Yes, could you make her a panelist, please? Please, ECLAC team.
But what I'll add while we're bringing up
Okay, yes, go
Alicia.
ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, so from spatial innovations perspective, because we operate around the region, serving 15 countries, the opportunity of Hurricane Melissa has also taught us many lessons that we can adopt and bring to other countries who may face similar disasters. In terms of the frameworks that we were exposed to, going through the preparedness, the response, and then how we do the mitigation, it's definitely been a learning experience, I would say, as well. Just adding to that.
Okay, thank you so much, Matthew. Alicia, thank you so much for joining us. Are you able? You're in a stable area. You're able to share screen. I know you're heading into our next meeting shortly. You're in a position to share screen?
I'm attempting to share screen. I am driving. Well, I'm being driven. I think that is a safer way to say it. I am being driven, so I'm not endangering myself at all.
Okay, okay, good.
Please,
okay, you had us worried there.
Screen.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been in meetings, we've been in interviews from morning. It's a big day. So today is the 23rd staging. So today Jamaica celebrates GIS Day for the 23rd year. So it's a big thing for Jamaica, celebrating GIS Day, celebrating Geography Awareness Week, which is this week, celebrated by National Geographic. And so usually on today, we're either at UMONA with a big expo happening, but our plan was to be at Montego Bay Convention Center in the Western Jamaica with a huge expo that should have been on, different from other many events that we had planned throughout November. But of course came Melissa, unwanted guest. And so all of that had to be shelved because a lot of the schools that we would have catered to, different from players in terms of the key entities would have been involved, of course, are actively dealing with response and recovery efforts. And so we just could not have those events again. And so then came dovetailing with respect to having this event. And so we're happy to be able to share based on this work that we are doing. All right. You're in good stead now, Alicia? Getting there? All right, let me take questions while you're setting up. Susanna, there are any other questions for us? Okay, wonderful. You're up. You're up. So over to you.
Excellent. So please confirm if you if you're seeing my screen.
Can. Yes, we can. Okay. Thank you.
So just as Simone indicated, we had to pivot this year in how we would have celebrated our 23rd National GIS Day. So we intended to have a grand presentation, invitations, and also showcasing of our GIS activities, geospatial technologies at the Mobile Convention Center in the West, targeting our schools and our institutions that really don't have the chance to come up to Kingston for GIS Day. And remember, Jamaica is not Kingston. However, we had to pivot. And from that perspective, we had to pivot in alignment with the emergency management cycle to show how we responded to Hurricane Melissa. By meeting as NERGIST, and we indicated, or the outcome team indicated to us that they wanted to see where the system was in relation to the country. So we were able to leverage the information we would have had via story maps to show them this is what's happening out there, and this bulletins and your briefings. Then further into ensuring that we had one central place where the situation reports from the NEOC would be posted. Also the bulletins that were coming out from the Med Office, where they would be posted. Having this information up to date at hand by all NERGIST team members allow the quick information to be spread from a central place. We also then said, our NERGIST team members need to know where the shelters are. So yes, we've created a dashboard to show our shelters after this, but we needed to know where they are now. So we said, okay, does ODPEM have a shelter map? And they do. On their website, they have a shelter map. So we're able to look and see and post this information via the web, embedded to show where their shelters were or are. As the system approached and the island was receiving more rainfall, more wind before it made landfall, we so we decided to then crowdsource how roads were looking. And then hopefully with the team, we have conversation as roads became impassable, as the road became flooded, how is the information going to be pushed to the NERGIST team? So we decided to embed Waze, which is a crowd, which showed us what was as our team members.
I'm sorry. Are we hearing Alicia? You're hearing Alicia, Matthew?
No. Yeah, I think we lost her about 30 seconds ago.
Okay, Alicia, we're not hearing you. Thanks, Liz. Alicia? All right, we think you're frozen. Alicia, I'm not sure if you're hearing us, but we're not hearing you.
Remember, she's being driven, so she might have moved into a dead zone.
Okay. All right, we're hoping your connectivity changes so that we can hear you and see as your screen changes. Because you look frozen.
So that's interesting. Do we have the ISPs operating and letting us know via a map or dashboard where the services are restored?
De hecho, ese uno así me iba a comprar. Me compré el Redmi One y me salió 20 lucas.
Is that your... Sorry.
20 lucas.
No, the CPAL team has their mics unmuted.
Oh, sorry. CPAL team, could you close your mic, please? Please. All right. So while we're waiting on Alicia, hoping that she... Thank you so much for continuing to be online with us. We apologize that it's taking a little time, but we're going to wrap up shortly. We're hoping that Alicia is able to continue presenting in short order. But while we're waiting on her, I'm going to take some points in the chat. I'm noting your question, Mark. But I think it's a question for Alicia based on her presentation. So let's hold it until she's able to get back to us. All right. I'm gonna take comment in the chat. So Philip says, Philip, thank you so much for Humanity on OpenStreetMap. Thank you for coming to Jamaica. He says, being on the ground in Jamaica, it was amazing to see how the multiple entities collaborated with a vast amount of partners and information coming in at one time. It was gracious that Hot it was gracious and Hot for the opportunity to assist where they could. My hope is to foster the local assistance in training youth and volunteers in the long-term collection of data as interventions keep going along during the year. Thank you so much for that, Philip. Thank you for your support, because we were in meetings days before. Yeah, working around the clock, dealing with different things. Thank you for assisting with setting up those chat map groups and for all the technical support with respect to the drone deployment teams, and for coming here to provide support on ground coming from St. Lucia. Thank you for all of that. Yeah,
Simone, may I interject, please, at this time? We've gone 30 minutes beyond the closing time for the session. Valerie indicated that there will be other opportunities to have further discussion. Could we ask if persons wish to continue and wait for Alyssa, or should we close? I should have gone somewhere for 1:30 and I'm still here.
Okay, no problem. All right. I think we may need to close. Yeah, because it's taken a little while to get back, but I'm sure there'll be other opportunities in the future. So we're gonna close off. Over to you, Cecile, with the vote of thanks and to close off. Thank you.
Okay, I want to say, of course, a special thanks to the over 65 persons who participated today in the last, maybe 2 hours or an hour and a half. We've gone 2 hours, an hour? I don't know. We started at 12, so we're now at 2 o'clock. So, first of all, I want to say thanks to the speakers. Valerie actually did a wonderful introduction. Thank you earlier. But I want to say thanks to the persons who spoke today. I saw where you actually, I want to use the language that Simone used, executed and showed flexibility and adaptability. Thanks to Valerie for the contribution she made. Of course, Simone herself, and to Matthew and Alicia who joined. We want to say thanks to the organizers, CARIGEO. Simone heads up CARIGEO for the Caribbean on the UNGGM Americas. And of course, the members of NERGIST and the NSDMD for coordinating that activity and this webinar with the brainchild. And of course, to Alvaro and his team from ECLAC, who has provided the web platform on which we're able to speak and see each other and to share today, and the logistical support he has provided to make this webinar possible. And of course, thanks very much to the attendees for your patience and your flexibility again and adaptability in joining us. I saw some of the comments and I saw that we had persons not only from the region, but from across the world, and for attending. And that you said that it was wonderful, and you have learned a lot from what has been shared. I recognize that Valerie has said many times that you will be documenting the information. I think this is particularly very important. So I just want to thank everybody, the stakeholders who have made this possible and continue to do the work that is particularly interested in, okay, in terms of the important role the collaborators and stakeholders play, the importance of continuous learning. And what I'm particularly interested in is the mitigation strategies, because we must recognize as small island states, although we do not contribute to global warming, we are the countries with the least resources who are impacted because of the heat that is happening on the planet. And so I think the onus is on us as a people of the country and our governments to look at how do we put in place mitigating measures, and what is the role we as geospatial professionals have to play in creating the solutions using the information we have to create the strategies that will reduce the impact, because we know that we'll be getting more frequent hurricanes. So as young professionals who are on this call, what do we need to do to put in place mitigation strategies, and the strategies that we're going to employ, not just for data collection, but in terms of how you're using the data for analysis to inform planning, to inform construction, to inform or social services where people build. How do we inform and educate the public? Because we have a lot of work to do, and the geospatial tool allows us to do so. So yes, you have done a lot of work, but I still believe you have even more work to do. Thank you all very much for being here, and we look forward to having a follow-up session, because I don't think we have addressed all the things we wanted to do. So over to Simone. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, Cecile. Thank you everyone for attending and for contributing. Could you please open your mics if you're able, your cameras, sorry, if you're able to do so we can take a few photos. If you're in a position, please open your cameras. We would love to take a few photos before we close out. Many thanks for joining us. Thanks for staying on beyond the time. Thank you for your patience and adaptability in light of, all the moving factors. Yeah. Any others who can open their mics, or are we good? All right. So we're going to take 1 or 2 shots to make sure that we're good in terms of screenshots. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate your support, and we will send out the recording. So please pay attention to our social media sites, because we'll be sending out the recording. All right? Good. Thank you.
Looking forward to the date.
Happy GIS Day, everyone.
Yes.
Yes. Happy International GIS Day. Please check out LICJ_GIS for postings, and also we send out in terms of emails, etc., etc., etc. Thank you, everyone. Take care, and thank you for all your support, all who have been providing support on ground in here or virtually.
Susanna, welcome to the CARIGEO team.
Thank you. I'm happy to be there.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Thanks
Bye.
again.
Bye.
Thank you, Matthew. Bye, everyone. Bye, Mark. Thank you. Thank you, Alvaro and team.
Bye,
Bye, Matthew. Bye, Philip and all. Take care.